I just really want to thank Dr. Davis for a very informative and relatable presentation. I don't know where he's on to. I'm sure there are many takeaways from his presentation. I know that there are many things that we are able to relate to, and we'll be able to think about a little bit further as we leave the room today. But one of the takeaways that I want to really point out is that we need to be open to the role of medication in treating mental health illnesses. There's still a lot of stigma in regards to medication, and you heard from Dr. Davis how easy ADHD is able to be treated, but there's still some parents that are resistant in the role that medication has. They feel that it's only for teachers. Teachers want the medication in order to be able to have a better life. But truly, I think you have heard that taking care of our children really is a multidisciplinary approach. Parents need support, not just of educators, but healthcare professionals. And not just healthcare professionals, but the cross-section of healthcare professionals. And we all need to talk together because we gotta break down the silos in order to be able to share with each other what's happening. And when we feel that we've come to the end of the road and we need the assistance of another profession. So thank you so much, Dr. Davis. Now, we're going to invite Dr. Jennifer Robertson to the podium. And Dr. Jennifer is going to, she's the Senior Counseling Psychologist at Aspire Therapeutic Services, and she's going to speak to us on the role of acceptance in supporting young people. Help me welcome Dr. Jennifer Robertson.
So good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. And I'm so grateful to the previous speakers because they touched really nicely on all the points I want to make. So that was handy. That worked out well. Okay. So I'd like to speak to you today about the role of acceptance in helping young people. Okay. So I want to talk to you about a particular kind of acceptance. Okay. A really deep, full kind of acceptance called radical acceptance. Okay. And it's really helpful in getting barriers out of the way that can sit between ourselves and young people that we care about, right? And it's really handy in helping us deal with situations and people that we don't love, like situations and people that we can find really annoying and frustrating, right? So it's a good skill to have. So we're going to talk a little bit about background and definitions of this idea of acceptance. We're going to talk a bit about how do we meaningfully and sort of accurately apply it, and what are the benefits of it. Okay. So the idea of acceptance is not new. It's really, really old, okay? We can find acceptance talked about in ancient and indigenous cultures. We can see it talked about a lot in different philosophical approaches and religions. Here I've got Buddhism, Hinduism, Stoicism. So it's not a new idea, right? And where we see it talked about, we see a lot of themes that recur. So themes of talking about not resisting, not trying to control, not getting into a fight about things we can't change, okay? So what we're going to talk about is a specific kind of acceptance called radical acceptance, right? So that phrase was coined by a psychologist called Marsha Lynham in the 90s, right? So she doesn't talk about radical acceptance as like a broad philosophical term or like a religious approach. She talks about it like a skill that we build and we practice, then it becomes a way of being, okay? So if we think about definitions, so we've got radical and acceptance. So the radical part, we could also use the word total or the word complete, because what it's really getting at is that we accept the full emotional and practical reality of a situation. Not just the bits we like, not just the bits that are easy and tolerable. We accept that we radically, openly, totally, and completely accept the whole of something, right? And yes, it can be as hard as it sounds, right? We're going to get onto that. So the acceptance part is that we really absorb and take in and internalize the situation fully, okay? So we've got the radical bit, we've got the acceptance bit, okay? Like I say, it's an active skill. It takes practice, right? It takes practice. We chip away at it until we get there, okay? What it's not, right? So when I talk about acceptance with clients, they're quite often like, oh, Oh, you want me just to be fine with everything then? You want me just to roll over and just take stuff? I'm just to say yes to everything? No, that's not what we're saying. Acceptance doesn't even mean liking something, doesn't mean approving something. It just means you are willing to genuinely face and sit with the present, what's actually happening, not what you wish happened, not what's happening to somebody else, what's actually happening to you right now in the moment, okay? It's that willingness and that openness, okay? We cannot change a situation if we wish it wasn't happening, and we cannot change a situation if we're trying to pretend it isn't there and not look at it, okay? So I want to run through this little example, right? So it's just an example, don't panic, right? But say if we turned on the radio right now, right? And they were like, you've got 4 hours till a hurricane hits. We know it's February, we know this doesn't usually happen, but tough, right? That's what's going down, right? It's a Cat 3, right? There's not, don't panic, right? It's all good. So if we were in non-acceptance, we might be a bit like, hurricane, like, doubt it. I don't think so. They're always exaggerating this stuff. I don't really believe that. I don't really want to take that information, and I'm just going to kind of dismiss that, right? That's non-acceptance, right? Or we might have a little bit of acceptance. We might be like, yeah, all right, I believe you, but it's February. This shouldn't be happening. That's not the reality I'm used to. Like, I've got a party planned later. I've been marinating chicken all night for my barbecue. Got my coals ready. I'm expecting a party. Like, I don't want this. This isn't fair. So you might kind of acknowledge a wee bit of the truth, but you might still be fighting and resisting. If we've got radical acceptance, that's when we're going, okay, storm's coming, it's a Cat 3, got about 4 hours. What am I going to do next? Maybe I'm going to go home and start putting the shutters down. Maybe I'm going to move my wee Honda Fit to a high point so the engine doesn't get flooded, right? I'm going to start meaningfully responding because I accepted it. I accepted an unpleasant truth, and now I'm taking action. So please don't think radical acceptance is about inactivity or not doing stuff, right? It can be really active. You don't accept the storm because you like it. You accept the storm because you want to get through it. And that applies to us and our young people. We accept the stuff they come with, the problems that they can bring, the situations they can get themselves into, not because we're cool with it, but because we want to get through it. We want us all to get through it safely, okay? So we quick bit about the research. So we know that when we have good acceptance, it helps our emotional regulation. So instead of having big highs when something's really overwhelming or we're crashing down, we're a lot more even and level, right? We know that it can improve our flexibility and adaptability. We've just seen that in the last example. If we've got good acceptance, we can be quite flexible. We can pivot a bit more easily, right? Improves trust and safety. We are a much safer place for our young people if we can be accommodating, if we can accept and tolerate what we're being told, okay? If we're somebody that doesn't overreact or underreact, that we represent a much safer place and we can build trust from them. It improves our social skills and communication because we're in the present. We're not arguing and battling with what we think should be happening or trying to ignore it. Our social skills and our communication become about the present, which is a lot more productive and it's a lot just more effective, okay? So that's all great. It sounds dead nice and simple, doesn't it? There's all these benefits. Like, why don't we just do that? What might get in the way, right? So let me introduce you to my little friend here, right? My little friend, I'm going to read the caption out. So when your team loses, but you remember your parents taught you to be a good sport, so you congratulate the other team, right? So he says, congrats. He says he's happy for you. He says, nice, right? Now, yes or no, what do we think about my little friend's acceptance? Has he got good acceptance? Probably not, right? So this is often what people are doing when they think they're being accepted, right? So I've put a little phrase at the bottom, a little phrase called "it is what it is." I'm Scottish, right? I'm from the land of "it is what it is." We love saying that. Oh, it is what it is, mate. It's fine. What are you going to do? And that's how we look when we say it. Because we don't mean it. We're just saying it, right? Acceptance isn't that. It's not words. It's inside and out. So I think if we were to take our little friend here and give him the mic, right, I think he might be saying stuff like, well, I don't think that was very fair because they had Michael and he's a better goalkeeper than our goalkeeper. We got stuck with Steve. and he's rubbish. They had the home advantage. They were playing on their own turf. That's just not fair, right? You can tell in his brain, he's saying he's happy for you, but in his head, he's sitting with all these non-accepting thoughts. In his body, he's holding in all sorts of resentment and anger and irritation, isn't he? He doesn't look too chuffed, does he? So his acceptance is only like 5%. He's not really facing, how does he feel about this defeat? What kind of thoughts is he having? Are they the kind of thoughts that move him forward? Are they the kind of thoughts that keep him stuck and chewing on it, right? So the other reason I've chosen my wee pal here is because he's a good example of if we are just saying we're accepting, people can tell you don't mean it. We can tell he doesn't mean it, right? And your young people are way smarter than you are. They know when you're just going, okay, well, if that's what you want to do, okay. I'm fine. They know you don't mean it. They can see, okay, he's a wee bit of an exaggeration, right? But they can see on your face, they can see in your body, they can get a sense that you're holding back and they can't connect with you, and that's a barrier, okay? So, does anybody recognize this chap? Anybody want to shout his name out? Scar, right, okay, Scar from The Lion King. Now, why am I showing you Scar from The Lion King? I'm showing you Scar from The Lion King because he's got the worst acceptance in the animal kingdom, this lion. If you watch that film, he's got terrible acceptance. He's the best example of non-acceptance I could think of. Now, all my references are a wee bit old, but I'm 42, right? What are you going to deal with it, right? So think about Scar. Think about that film, right? He was absolutely poisoned with his non-acceptance. If you think even the way his face was, the way he skulked about, everything about him, he was full of contempt and resentment and anger because he couldn't accept his brother got made king. Now, I'm not getting into a debate about it. We could say that was a bit rough, that was a bit unfair. Well, you know, we can have some empathy for Scar, but it doesn't matter. He could not accept the practical reality and the emotional reality of his situation, and it turned him inside out. Every single scene he's in, you can see it's ripping out him, as we say in Scotland, right? So we think, what can we learn from that? So if Scar was a client of mine, right? So if the chief medical officer's in, he wants to give a bit of cynical coverage to Scar, right? I don't ordinarily see lions, but I'll make an exception, right? So if Scar was a client of mine, I might be saying to Scar, I wonder what gets in the way. There's something really getting in the way of you accepting this. You know, there's Mufasa and he's the king and Simba and all. There's something really getting in the way. And I'd be like, I see you've got all this anger, because that's often the first place we go when we don't accept. We get into our anger, we get into our resentment, right? So I wonder, all this anger and all this frustration. I wonder if we sit with that and go, okay, right, I'm angry, I'm frustrated. Is there anything under that? And I know it's just a film, right? But I rather suspect if we sat with Scar, he's probably got a lot of shame. He probably feels very powerless and helpless. He probably feels very rejected. He probably feels very sad and grief-stricken maybe that this whole situation is going on. But that's not the feelings he's accessing. So often when we're in non-acceptance, we're just sitting with the surface feelings that we're more comfortable with. He's obviously more comfortable with his sarcasm and his passive-aggressive. But when we get under that, sometimes the thing that's stopping us accept something is that we have a lot of really painful feelings that we don't want to go near. So that is what I mean by full acceptance. It isn't just I accept my brother's the king. It's I accept that I've got I feel really ashamed that I didn't make it. I feel like a failure. I feel, like I'm out of control. Does that make sense? Okay. So the reason I've used these as well is I think they can be a little tool, right? So if you're trying to check in with where's my acceptance at, if you can say, am I being a little bit Scar from The Lion King about this? Right? Am I hanging on to stuff and chewing over it in my brain? Or am I being a little bit of a sore loser like the wee boy? Am I struggling to accept stuff? I think these can be a nice little reference point for us, right? So here we've got two columns, right? We've got column number 1, which says problem number 1 at the top. And the next one says problem number 2. So problem number 1, that first column, that's the actual situation we're trying to face, right? The actual problem. Column number 2 is the problem that we have with problem number 1, right? And that's usually where we are. A lot of the time when we can't get past something, we're nowhere near problem number 1. We're in problem number 2, right? So we think about our little friends that we just met, right? So the wee guy at the start is, my team lost. He's not in, okay, I need to accept the emotional and practical reality that my team lost. He's in, oh, well, maybe it is what it is, but it's not fair, is it? That's ridiculous. I don't agree with that. He's over there. Scar. My brother got made king, right? He's not sitting with that. He's like, well, it should have been me. I'd have been a much better leader. It didn't work out too well, though. And then we think about situations that apply to us. So what about my teen is dating someone I don't like? We often jump straight to, I don't want them dating anybody yet. They're too young. I don't want a reality where my child is dating. I want a reality where they're not dating anybody and they listen to me, right? Or it might be my 8-year-old got diagnosed with a learning difficulty. Why us? Why us as a family? Why do this additional difficult thing to handle? We've not had enough, right? It might be my daughter never comes out of her room, but she was so good until a couple of years ago. She always used, we were best friends. She always used to come down and sit in the living room. We'd always chat, right? I want that reality. I want the reality from 2 years ago, okay? Or my son started drinking. Well, Candace's kids don't drink. Candace doesn't have to deal with this. I want a reality that Candace has got. She doesn't deal with this stuff. People, she's respected in her house. I'm not respected in my house, right? That's where our head can go. My cousin was assaulted. I hate this. I wish this hadn't happened. If only it hadn't happened, right? So can you see the difference when we're in problem number one, we're sitting going, okay, what's the facts here? What's the reality? What's already happened that I can't change? That is often not where we go. We often jump straight to the second column. And we're resisting, we're fighting, we're bargaining. Anytime a sentence starts with but, or I hate this, or if only, or I don't want, or comparing realities, then we're not getting anywhere. We're in non-acceptance, and we're not going to progress, right? So we're kind of avoiding. So we think, okay, great. How do we then do it? How do we have better acceptance, okay? So I think the first thing to start with is not so much like what can we say or what can we do. The first thing is it starts in our body, right? So see the stuff we've talked about? I can think of times I've done it. I can think of times I've been like, don't want to pay $17 for strawberries and Fosters, or like, so or something more significant, right? I think I can call myself, I've definitely done it. Can people think of times where they've been stuck in the second set of, like, the problem number 2 thoughts? Does that sound, or has everybody got great acceptance here? It's just me, right? So what happens in your body when you're there is that you can feel your heart going, you feel tense, you feel hot, you feel stiff. It's often a real felt experience, right? It really gets a grip of us. So until we help our body to soften and ease and help it carry some acceptance, we're not going to be getting anywhere. So the first thing is, okay, can I take a breath? Can I just feel my feet on the ground for a second? Can I take a seat? Can I drink some water? Can I soften my muscles? I think that is really important. It's almost like you need to sober up, right? So when something happens that we didn't expect and we didn't want, we almost get a wee bit intoxicated, a bit drunk on anger, on resentment, on shame, on fear. So we almost have to kind of sober our body up. There's no alcohol being had, there's no substances, but it's almost like the same effect, but it's emotions that are intoxicating us, right? So we need to sober up a little bit from our feelings. We need to help our body calm down, come back to the present. Does that make sense? Okay. So then we think, okay, what happens next? So what do I do with all this stuff in my body that I'm feeling? So there's a nice little phrase called naming is taming, right? So if you've got a feeling, instead of just being like, it's horrible, or I'm anxious, or these kind of blanket terms, right? It is more helpful to be like, okay, it's fear, like I'm frightened, or it's anger, I'm furious. Being able to notice and name what's happening in your body is part of getting to acceptance, okay? And then we think about the perspective, okay? So we're thinking about when we're in non-acceptance, we're often like stuck in our own viewpoint. It's really hard to see someone else's, right? So I'll give you a little example. So a client of mine who gave permission to just share a wee bit about this story, not any personal identifying details, but she's in her 30s, right? And when she was 16, she unexpectedly got pregnant, right? And she didn't want to tell her parents because she suspected they would do a lot of that column number 2 stuff, they're not accepting it. She was totally right. They hit the roof, right? They were really, really angry and really upset. And it was all, I wish you'd listened to us. I wish you'd just done what we told us, what we told you. Yeah, we told you we didn't like that boyfriend. You should have just done what we said. So they were really, really they just couldn't accept what happened. And that pain stayed with her into adulthood. She's coming to me later in life looking for support for that. because they just couldn't see it from her perspective. They could just see it as, we're adults, we make sensible decisions. Why is a 16-year-old, doing this stuff? It's like, because she's different from you. She's at a different age and stage. The world's different now. She's in a relationship maybe you weren't when you were that age. So we really want to pause, and it can help us get acceptance when we sit and try and get the viewpoint of the young person that we're speaking to. Okay? I would always say, start small. So don't wait until there's a big, stressful thing to accept. Even stuff like when you're in traffic and it's annoying, or you're in a queue in Harley's and it's annoying. What is it like to go, instead of saying I wish I wasn't in this queue, or if only I left the house 10 minutes earlier. What is it like to go, I'm in this queue, I'm in this traffic jam, I accept it, I soften my body, I don't get into this kind of heated place about it. I relax, I let myself go, okay, what can I do when I'm in this queue? Can I take a breath? Can I have a look out the window? Can I stick the radio on if I'm in traffic? Does that make sense? So practice, right? Don't wait till it's a big stressful situation. Practice with little moments like that, and it helps us, right? So some things to remember. So like I said, we don't want to get into all the column 2, the problem number 2 stuff. We don't want to get into I wish and bargaining. We want to have thoughts that keep us a bit more grounded. So we can say this has happened, or this is already happening. We can focus on facing the facts. We can say this is the present day truth and fact. I can't force it to be any different right now. I'm just going to do my best to roll with it. Okay? And the way that we might say that to a young person, like my example there with my the client who was pregnant, it might look like, okay, this is a lot for me to take in right now. Let me get a moment to get my head around it. You don't have to snap to amazing acceptance straight away, but showing your young person that you're willing, showing them that you're still there, showing that you're still available, even if right in that moment you are a bit shocked or you are a bit upset. Okay, so that's the kind of language. You can ask for a minute. You can say, okay, I just need a second to get my head into this, Or I'm still there for you. I am feeling a way about it, but let me keep coming to me, keep talking to me, tell me what's going on for you. Okay, keep the dialogue open. Does that make sense? So another little friend I want to introduce you to. So he's not like the last couple of examples we looked at. He's not stressed, is he? He's quite relaxed. He's sitting there kind of smiling. He's telling you it's fine. He's having a little cup of tea even, right? So what do we think about his acceptance? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it good acceptance? He's good. Somebody said, he's crazy, right? So we think about our next little friend here, right? So he's got a little nugget of acceptance, right? He's able to say this is fine, which means he's acknowledging there's a this. He's like, there's a situation, there's a fire, okay? So the problem is, though, he's not looking at it, he's sitting away from it. He wants a reality where there's not a fire. He wants a reality where he can sit in his living room just like he's done every morning, and he can finish his cup of tea, and his house isn't burning down, right? So he's not really accepting that reality. And that is, I want to put this up because this is not what I want people to do. I don't want you to go, this is fine. No, right? He is not admitting the emotional reality of that situation, because if he was, he would notice his fear. He would notice his terror. He would notice his sadness, and he would get out of his house, right? So our emotions are important. We're not trying to hide them and get away from them. We're just trying to react in a way that's proportional, that's not really heated, that we're still grounded and calm for young people, so that they come back and they tell us stuff and they don't get scared of us. We think about when we see that, right? So when I see that in clients, my adult clients, it's not so much they don't care. Sometimes it's just that they don't see stuff. Sometimes we're super busy and we just miss stuff, right? But typically, it's not that they don't care. When I see that in people, when the kind of house is burning down and this is fine, they usually have a felt sense that I don't cope well. They've got a felt sense of, I don't trust my advice. I don't know that I'm strong enough, capable enough, decisive enough to actually help if I was to ask the question. So the kind of things this is fine about might be changes they notice in a young person. It might be changes in appearance. It might be changes in their grades. It might be changes in how chatty and sociable they are, changes in their mood. They might notice changes, and they might be like, I notice it, but I'm kind of hoping if I ignore it, it might just go back to normal again. I'm kind of scared that if I ask a question, it's all going to come out and I'm going to get overwhelmed and I'm not going to know what to say and I'm not going to know what to do, okay? So it's quite easy to notice when we go into like scar mode, right? And we're all annoyed and we tend to know that's happening. This one's a lot more subtle. It can be quite hard to know we're even doing it. We can really believe that we're being quite accepting, right? So it can be harder to spot in the moment. But if anybody's sitting here thinking, oh, I kind of do that. Like I don't get dead heated about stuff, but sometimes I can find it hard to like approach a situation or call out a situation. I can just sometimes hope it just goes away. You might need a little bit of support. You might need a little bit of help to build confidence, to maybe walk through any past stuff that's getting in the way, okay? So, yeah, I just want to make that little point that non-acceptance can also look like the opposite of the first stuff. It can look very calm, it can look very chill, but that doesn't always mean we're actually accepting something. It can still be that form of avoidance, okay? So, again, we think about what is acceptance. Ultimately, it's like it's being a loving, stable presence even when stuff's not going ideally, right? It's that like unconditional love. It's like even when you do stuff I don't understand, even when stuff happens that really wasn't part of the plan, I can stay with you. I might have feelings about it. I might not immediately be, in a great mood about it, but come back to me. I'm with you. I'm here. Okay? So we think there's some nice quotes here, like acceptance is saying, this is happening. I don't like it, but I can stay with you anyway, Or not everything that's faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until we just face reality, okay? So again, we think, why? Why do we practice acceptance? What's the benefits? So if we think about the previous slide, it cuts your problems in half, right? You only got the first column to deal with. You don't have all this other head work that just stresses you out to deal with. It makes you a more safer, approachable, consistent, reliable, available person for your young people to come to. They go, I know Mum's not going to hit the roof. I know Dad's not going to give me a big ultimatum and threaten me, or he's not going to go on about how it was when he was a kid, right? He's going to be able to stay in the present. He's going to be able to hear me, okay? This is a really important point as well. It builds self-acceptance and good regulation in our young people when we model it, right? So if we're able to show, I can respond in proportion, even when something's a bit expected. I can still help you focus on what we do next, even when I would rather we didn't have this situation to deal with at all, okay? You're showing them I don't go wildly up and wildly hitting the floor. I'm able to stay even. It helps them to learn how to stay even, okay? And this bit I think is important, and it kind of goes back to like the maybe scar example and a couple of other things, is it lets you process situations properly and fully, all right? And notice when sometimes a background issue's getting in the way. So say, for example, if the things you're really struggling to accept, be curious with yourself and notice, right? Because quite often the things you struggle to accept, it's about something you might struggle to accept about yourself. So say, for example, if you've got a big button in you of, I can feel like I'm a failure quite easily. Then when your kid that you've asked for the 100th time hasn't done the dishes, it can hit that button. It's not really about dishes. It's about, I feel like I've failed as a parent because I'm not getting communication with my kid. They're not listening to me. Or if you've got a big button of, I'm not good enough, then, when your kid hears your advice but follows someone else's, it can feel like, that's a personal rejection. That's hitting my button of I'm not good enough. So if we're just sitting with the top feelings, the anger and frustration, and we never get into, why does this bother me so much? What buttons is this pushing in me? Is there maybe some stuff from the past that I need to walk through and deal with that helps me have better acceptance? Then we're only going to know that by actually looking inward and actually, okay, what does it mean to fully accept this situation? Does that make sense? Okay. So just some resources that I've touched upon here. I think all the slides are going to be made available by PDF after the presentation. So just some stuff I thought was, it's all free access stuff from the internet. Some references that I touched upon earlier on. Okay, so again, just stuff you can click on and have a read in your own time. And a little bit about my contact details and where I'm based. So I'm based at Aspire on Eastern Avenue. I don't know that we don't really have time for a Q&A right now, but I'll be walking about, big earrings, orange lanyard. if you want to come and have a chat, you want to ask any questions, or you've got any comments, then please come and find me. I'll be kicking about, okay? So thank you so much. Appreciate it.